Jewish campus shooter now officially sentenced to death. There are now 10 people on death row in the state of Kansas, but the state hasn't actually executed anyone for 50 years now.
And now new at 10, 41 Action News anchor Krista DeBille digs deeper into the debate to find out if it's worth the price.
Mindy Corporan won't say the name of the man just sentenced to death for killing her 14-year-old son and her dad.
He's not going to be remembered.
The defendant, as she calls him, is the latest to be sentenced to death in the state of Kansas. There are now 10 men on death row, all convicted of brutal crimes and all still alive.
I was raised in a house believing in the death penalty, but I never had to dwell on it. I never had to think about it so much.
Corporan thinks about it now, not because she wants to.
And I would say that before this happened to us, I strongly believed in the death penalty. In general, in terms of humanity, I hate that a life has to be taken for a life, but he took 3. You can tell I'm like, it's hard. It's hard.
Corporan is not the only one who struggles with where she stands on the death penalty. Whether or not someone should die for their crimes is debated in every state and has been for generations. 3 of the reasons cited for not having the death penalty: 1, it is more expensive than locking them up for life. 2, it does not deter criminals from committing violent crimes. And 3, there could be certain counties more aggressive, maybe even racist, when applying the death penalty. First, cost. A Kansas legislative committee last year looked into the cost of the death penalty. It found defending someone facing death costs 4 times as much as defending someone who is not. Trial court costs are higher, jury trials take longer, and the Kansas Supreme Court estimates it spends 20 times the amount of hours on death penalty appeals. But the Johnson County District Attorney, Steve Howe, says that's not necessarily because of a death penalty.
When you have a first-degree murder case, it doesn't matter whether you have the death penalty or not. Whatever it is, the top crime in the state will be the ones where you have the most litigation.
And he says the money doesn't really matter.
This should never be about money, because it's really not. It's not an issue. It's really about the moral question about whether or not the death penalty should be imposed.
Next, is the death penalty a deterrent? The Death Penalty Information Center polled police chiefs in 2009 and found 57% said the death penalty does little to prevent violent crimes because perpetrators rarely consider the consequences. District Attorney Howe doesn't dispute that, but
one thing's for sure is when the death sentence is imposed, I don't care how tough those defendants think they are. They're concerned about it and they're scared. And to me, it's nice to know that finally they feel like how their victims felt.
As for a county more aggressive or racially charged, in the state of Kansas at least, 3 were sentenced in Sedgwick County, 2 now in Johnson County. The rest were in different counties, and the majority are white, including the latest just added. For Corporan, a death sentence is not high priority for her. She's more worried about helping her younger son move forward, and she's not looking for closure.
I'm not seeking closure. I'm seeking not feeling pain all the time. That's really what you're trying to find as a hurting parent and a hurting daughter.
She doesn't want to think about the defendant. She's more worried about living her own life the best she can.